I'm going to briefly talk about sea level rise, why it's important, what are the causes, the projections, and then talk about Tuvalu. Whoa. I don't know how this works. Okay, so why is it important? It is thought that 634 million people are living in coastal areas around the world. And one example, as we can see here, is of Bangladesh. How do you get this to? Oh, okay. And you can see from this figure that the red areas are the areas which are in a low coastal elevation zone. And so if sea levels were to rise, then they would be very quickly affected. And as you can see, it's a large part of the country. There are many places like this around the world which would be affected. The second figure is of Europe at nighttime, showing the lit up areas. And you can see also there are very bright areas around the coastal zones. And over 2/3 of the world's major cities are located, with over 5 million people, are located on the coast. These include places like New York, Hong Kong, Shanghai, many, many more places that I'm not going to list. Okay, so there are three main causes of sea level rise. Firstly, thermal expansion. This is because, like most fluids and like air, water is able to increase in size when it's heated. And so with sea surface temperatures rising and greenhouse gas emissions being absorbed by the ocean, the oceans increase in size, and first of all on the surface, and then after many years in the deeper oceans as well, it causes the steric effect, which is the oceans increasing in size. And then the second cause is Greenland and Antarctica melting. This is really hard to find good figures on because there's so many different views, but it's thought that if the the West Antarctica area holds 5 meters of sea level if it was to melt, and this is a really vulnerable area. And if the West Antarctica were to melt, it would increase 55 meters or something. But this is really crazy because it's going to take centuries and centuries for it to do that, if it ever does. The third one is ice caps and glaciers melting. This is really less certain, and you can't really be sure that this would be very true because if ice caps were to melt and the glaciers were to melt, it would not directly cause a link to it because of the buoyancy thing. But then with the albedo decreasing, and it would work like that. Doesn't really make sense like this. So my first projection, this is recent sea level rises, and as you can see, since 1880s, it's been increasing steadily. And then these are taken with meters in the sea, and then when the red line appears, it's with satellites as well, and you can see that it's still increasing as well. And these are the longer term predictions beyond 2100. The main one to point out is the A1F1 scenario, which is like the worst case scenario where we use all intensive fossil fuels, and the best estimate is that it will increase by 0.43 meters, which is like just under half a meter. And the best case scenario is 0.28. This is from a projection of the AR4 IPCC report. So there are many effects to sea levels rising: submerging of low areas, erosion of beaches, the wetlands being converted to open water, flooding, salinity, all of these things that you can read here. And one of the places that is most publicized about and going to be affected first, probably, is the island of Tuvalu, which is about 1,000 kilometers north of Fiji in the South Pacific Ocean. It's a really pretty iconic picture. And So it's got a population of about 11,000 people on an area of 26 kilometers squared over 9 islands. And if sea level, and it only emits, these small islands only emit about 1% of total greenhouse gases around the world, but are going to be the first affected by the sea levels rising, because it's an elevation of a maximum of 4.6 meters on the whole island. And it's going to cause climate refugees. The first climate refugees will be seen here, going to Australia and New Zealand and places near them. And based upon research done by the Australian government, in the last 16 years, it has been observed that sea levels have been rising by 5.9 millimeters a year. This is 4 times the national average that has been recorded elsewhere of 1 to 2 millimeters a year. And so it'll have bad effects. But it's also really hard to find precise statistics as well, because all the different websites say different things, and some places say there have been 50-year recordings, but with only 3 measuring instruments in the sea. Others say there's lots more.